Um, condenser mic.
No. I got a decent condenser mic. I bought the cheapest fucking desktop speakers that have an AUX cable. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word speakers a second ago, but there it is.
Oh, oh, you have the cheapest aux.
Yeah. So it's just kind of scratching back in my ears. Big pain in the ass.
Yeah, I definitely know how that is. That's why like I have like a mixer or like a receiver that I can like just like switch between my two.
Oh, that would be way better than what I got going on. But anyway, on a side note, there we already started. I don't really do any intros for this kind of stuff, so pretty much we pick up wherever we feel like it, and just to if the whole caption on this video wasn't apparent, we're talking about Squid Games, more as a retrospective since it took us forever to actually schedule this out due to the holidays and shit. But
Mhm.
today I am joined by my friend Panduh.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Anything you want to shill, or have you taken a break still?
I'm still taking a break. I might be picking up some streaming stuff. I might pick up. I might end up starting the stream. Don't know when that's gonna be. When that does happen, I'll definitely plug in some stuff.
Okay, sounds good to me. And then apologies in advance if there's any issues with the audio quality here. I am coming back from a 5-month long break because depression and scheduling these suck. But beyond that, so there's really no like central point to this kind of thing. So topic of conversation: Squid Games. Quick recap of what I remember from it because I did watch the thing straight through, thinking we were going to do it that weekend. Shit got in the way between my family and between your family, so had to push it off. But introduction to the show was pretty simple. That I guess I would have to say the thing that drew me into watching it in the first place was just that I kept seeing people say stuff like, "That movie was fun." No, like gigantic, you know, like oh my god, it was so culturally relevant and I loved it and blah blah blah, jerking off my fucking tender sensibilities kind of attitude about it. It was just that show was fucked up and fun. So yeah, if you get a chance, check it out. So I was like, okay, cool. And I usually
Yeah.
take your recommendations at least. I don't always watch everything all the way through, but you were primarily one of the people that recommended it to me, and I trust you.
Mhm. Yeah, and of all the different shows, like I recommend you a lot of shows, but after I watched this one with my wife and everything, and of how good it was, definitely like I knew I needed you to watch it just because it is something. Yeah, we can definitely talk about.
Yeah.
So obviously after a lot of 1 hour of pure pressure, you watched it, and yeah.
You twisted my arm. I had to, but yeah, I was very very pleasantly surprised, and oddly enough, like one of the funnier indicators to whether or not something's going to be good is if some of my friends like it and most of my family doesn't. Not to say anything bad about anybody individually, but they don't really like movies that they have to read, and they hate dubs more than so. So at the very least, anime fans, you like the fact that my family would prefer to read it than they would to watch somebody's lip flaps not sync up with what's actually being said. So I did both. Uh,
You
and
you gotta admit though, you do have to admit, watching it dubbed, they did an excellent job. One with the voice actor for each role, but also dubbing it was pretty. Yes, there was sometimes where you saw that the lips and the sound wasn't matching up, but most of the time it worked out perfectly.
honestly, a lot of the times, you see this a lot more in what's the word I'm looking for here? European and some Eastern European films, more than anything, more than any Asian and even Russian or I can't think of. I'm on a fucking computer. I should probably just look up the map. But anyway, anywhere other than uh, Eastern Europe and places like that, you see them kind of abandon the idea of even needing to do the lip flaps and stuff. And I think it really adds to the story because you don't focus you don't you focus more so on the tone of which things are being said. So they put more thought into how does this translate versus can I match up with the lip flaps, because people should realize that this is a dub and it's not going to be 100% pitch perfect and accurate, especially because the languages don't even match up note for note like English kind of does for German and Spanish. Not, I mean, you speak Vietnamese. I would assume that the lip flaps for Vietnamese wouldn't fucking match up very well with English either.
You are very true. Just because when you think of English, you use like relatively the same part of the mouth and everything, but when it comes to like Vietnamese, you definitely use a lot of different parts of the mouth, like much more towards like the tongue, the back of the throat, and such like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen you talk to your parents in it a couple of times, and it's always a real treat to get to witness the conversations, because it is a really beautiful language. Very much.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's kind of funny. Every time this comes up in conversation with us, it always reminds me of even my dad. He grew up in a Spanish-speaking house and everything like that, but there are dialects of Spanish that he doesn't understand, and there are some dialects that I can understand just fine, and there's others that I have no idea what the hell they're talking about, just because of the difference in syntax. I think that's the right word, syntax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, with that kind of stuff out of the way, that's pretty much the biggest hurdle for anybody who's going into this who doesn't have a taste for foreign films already. It's that's the biggest thing for you to try to overcome.
Yeah. And if you don't have a taste for foreign films, you really need to get out of under a rock.
Yeah, I'll second that. Mostly, God, what was the biggest thing that I hear complaint-wise for it is, and I don't know if it's just a symptom of American films, because some of my favorite and also some of the most, I guess you could say, influential actors in one form or another, they have a very animated way of speaking. It's engaging and it's interesting, and it definitely makes you remember them. But for some reason, when people look back on that kind of stuff, they're like, Captain Kirk talk funny. And I really don't get that attitude, and that is really just kind of the acting style that I get from a lot of these characters, particularly the main character, and I cannot remember any of their names, but like I called her the happy girl with the curly hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really call anybody by their names. It was main character, old guy, smart guy, Indian guy, angry girl, angsty girl, and happy girl with curly hair.
Yeah. You definitely, when it comes down to it, like if you're not of like, I guess you say Korean descent, to where like those names are super common to you, or a super like hardcore cultural language study, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna really remember those names. So like when it comes to watching the show, you're gonna obviously have the main character, the old man, the main girl, the gangster, uh, the crazy lady,
That's fair.
let's see. Oh, the Indian guy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to be rude or racist, but
You're not that familiar with Indian names, so it didn't really stick.
and also the fact that he was literally the only Indian guy.
Yeah, I mean that did help distinguish him amongst the crowd.
Mm-hmm. And then you also had uh the easiest way to kind of put her. She was a sacrifice girl. Um, she essentially sacrificed herself for the main protagonist girl. So
Oh yeah, dude, that one fucking broke my heart just because it was like, I, I don't think you'd expect to see something like that, because I mean, actually, that was one of the one of the first places I take mentally for any story is, can I put myself in this mentally? What is this situation gonna feel like if I'm that person? And I know it's kind of contrary to like the way people view this kind of stuff culturally, because it's just like, oh, I have to see myself in the character. It's like, I just have to be able to empathize with them. It doesn't matter what they look like or where they come from. If I can understand this person's situation, then I can get into the story. And I would say every single one of these people has a very relatable story if you can just give yourself the benefit of the doubt and put yourself in the position of, what would I do if I were this person in this situation?
Oh,
That's
we should have definitely said this way earlier. Spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen Squid Game. And right now, if you have not seen Squid Game,
it's been out for half a year. Go fuck yourself.
yeah, go watch it. And for anyone says, "Oh, well, I have a real job," it's like, dude, so do we. We have real jobs. We have families.
Hmm.
And I still made time to watch it.
Some
Like,
of us even like other families.
yeah, exactly.
I'm just
Um,
sorry, bit of an inside joke. I'll never really explain that out loud, but
but anyways,
so
kind of going, yeah, kind of go back to what you said. Go for it.
oh yeah. So in terms of that kind of stuff, that was the main thing for why I would say I really like this story. Is that like I guess this is a good segue into the plot summary too. So spoilers, but plot summary pretty simple for this. You're introduced to a guy who is clearly getting close to his wit's end. He is gambling. He's stealing money from his mother. He's doing He's trying to do everything that he can to make as much money as he can as quickly as possible to pay off a lifetime's worth of debts and mistakes. And on the place of it, I love the way they introduce this, because in your head you get to make the initial misconception that he's just a bad person, but there's way more to it.
And yeah, kind of going off of, like tacking onto that, yeah. And what makes it like even a little bit more, I guess, to say hitting home is that he was a dad. Like, like he did pretty much a lot of that. Um, was essentially for his daughter. Granted, he shouldn't have gotten himself into that thing in the first place to where he is there, but uh, and that's where it makes it like kind of relatable to those people where growing up with um dad or a parent, quote unquote a single, um and watching it, you can kind of get that sense. It feels like I know where that's coming from. I've like I've hit that rock bottom, and what do I do at this point except for try to make something out of nothing?
I love that. Yeah, I love that idea. It even again, everybody. I'd say the only two people that you couldn't totally sympathize with is the gangster, just because like clearly the guy had to be something of a bad guy. Maybe he was born into this kind of situation where that was just like the first available thing that he could do to not starve to death, since like they made it really abundantly clear that these people all come from a very impoverished situation. So they're all in this position together. If nothing else, they just come from different backgrounds, but they're all essentially in the same pile of mud. And then the mostly the curly haired girl and the sacrifice girl, you can't really sympathize with them too much, almost up until their deaths. Because you don't really get to know a lot about them. It really just comes across like the sacrifice girl, or as I like to call her, the edgy one. I have like 7 different names for her: the angsty girl, the edgy girl, the punk girl, whatever suits best for that episode. But you don't find anything really deeper out about them at first.
Right? That I felt like just like storytelling, they that was so amazing on how they did that. Like, you really don't know why each certain one is there until a little bit towards the end of the story. I mean, granted, like the main character, yes, you do need to know information about the main character to actually like get a feel of who he is,
Hmm.
um and how like you're gonna like this guy, because you're gonna be stuck with this guy for freaking you know 10, 12 episodes, 15 episodes. So
I
you
can't
really
remember how
got
long it was either. I think it was only like 9 episodes, but they were all really decently length episodes.
yeah, they were all an hour long. So it was hold on. It was 9 episodes, so it was 9 hours long.
God damn. Yeah, and somehow it only took me like 5 days to get through the whole thing.
Took you 5 days? It took me like a day and a half.
Well, because I had fucking chores and shit that I have to do every day.
Oh.
Yeah. And that, and in between all the side projects and stuff too. Speaking of which, I am almost done with the hammering on your knife. I just need to cut something out to make the actual part where the handle is going to get attached to it, and that's pretty much all that's left for that part. Then it gets tempered and grinded down. But yeah, anyway, there might be a video of that coming out too, but I'm going to make sure I have that in your hands, finished, ready to go before that video comes out.
Sweet. Can't wait.
Looking forward to it. So, circling back a bit here. So I'd say that's enough of a plot summary for the introduction there, since that's pretty much the whole thing. You get a couple of days in the life of the main character. You understand his motivations. He's doing this to try to save his relationship with his daughter. And I gotta say, I think one of the more interesting aspects of this is that this dude is so far lost that he's gotten to the point where he's accepted the fact that he'll never regain the love of his ex-wife. That's just that's gone to him. He's past that point. But he still has hope for his daughter and for the safety and sanctity of his mother, because as shitty as they act towards each other in the beginning, it's pretty clear that he's trying to make up something that he's lost along the way between the two of them. And then with that game in the subway, I think that was my favorite part of it, because it really highlighted something deep with him that I think got lost when people focus on just the spark notes of this. When he's playing that game, I think you get to see highlighted who he is as a person. He's playing this game. He keeps getting beaten down in this contest with this guy, and then when he finally wins, he's so short-sighted he forgot completely about the money and went straight back to slap the other guy. That was the only thing that was important in this game, is that he kept getting hit and he wanted to hit back.
Now, speaking of that, the question for that we kind of really want, like, your thoughts on, for at least for me. So, yes, you are correct. He forgot all about, like, oh, I won money. I'd like, I want to slap this guy. Now, if you think about it, as he was playing the game, he was essentially playing to win the money for, to give his daughter a better life. But as you see in the very end of the show, he gets the phone call, or he sees the guy, and he's like talking to the guy on the phone, and he's supposed to go see his daughter, but then, he ends up leaving. So do you think what happened is essentially kind of like a relapse towards like the beginning of him, like he totally forgot all about his daughter because he just wants to try to play the game? Or do you want to go with the theory that, oh, he wants to end this game?
I really want to believe that he wants to try to end the game. But on the flip side of that, part of me thinks that he's kind of got like a certain level of that PTSD. That I think you hear about it mostly for like prisoners and people that have been in war, where they go through this really serious traumatic event, and because they can never really get past it, they want to go back to it because that's the last time they felt like themselves since it happened. So, ironically enough, he almost parallels the old guy who, not to brag or anything, but like just before the red light, or not the red light, the lights out game, I was just like, that motherfucker's in on it.
Wait, you're talking about which game? The red light, green light?
No. The red light, green light one. I was watching it, and I was more so just kind of in awe of the spectacle of the situation. That there's just this crimson horror in front of these people, and you see the few of them who can control themselves, and they get to live until they screw up, and then you see the majority of I think they lost like almost 2/3 of their initial starting players, or was it more like, was it closer to half? I want to say it was closer to half.
It was so close. It was close to half.
Yeah, they literally like somewhere around 50% of the players just panicked and lost right out of the gate. and it's kind of horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right in like the very first game.
Mm-hmm. So now in that one, I wasn't really sure. I mean, I had some suspicions about the old guy. I mean, like, how fucked is this guy's life for him to sign up for this and get excited about playing red light, green light with the prospect that he could die? But but it wasn't until the lights out game that I was actually like, oh, this motherfucker's in on it. I had a suspicion during the second game of Tug of War, because he came up with like a really good thing that was going to help them out, but it didn't work out perfectly enough for me to go, that was a little too useful. This guy's seen this enough times before that it's giving him some making it seem like he knows a little too much about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't occur to me until the lights out game where he was like just gone, and then somehow he's at the top of the bunks and stuff. At that point, I'm like, no. Everybody else is panicking and they're trying to hide under something. He's the only person that had the wherewithal to think, I need to get up high, because everybody's thinking about how they can get on the ground and how they can protect themselves. Nobody's trying to get up anywhere away from the danger.
Mm-hmm. And also, it was a really smart of him to essentially use that water bottle to make it look like he peed himself. Because when you think about it, granted, he kind of had like two advantages going from one, he's an old man, so really not a lot of people were planning on trying to like, hurt him or anything until that point. But then two, nobody's going to try to hurt an old man who's soiled himself, quote unquote.
That's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good point. That didn't occur. Well, I mean, I think maybe I was too focused on the gangster, because I was just like, oh, if anybody's gonna kill an old man, it's that motherfucker right there.
You would think. You would think, right?
Yeah, I mean, because he was all excited to kill the. Well, to be fair, he was more so excited to kill the girl
Mm-hmm.
who he betrayed. Oh wait, no, that wasn't the second game, was it? That was the third game. What was the second game? Was the
So the very first game was red light, green light.
Mm-hmm.
Uh Second game was, I believe it was the uh
I'm ready
fudge,
to
what
look
was
it
it?
up real quick just to be safe.
Yeah. Let's see. So what was the second game? Holy darn.
All right, so red light, green light, sugar honeycombs, tug of war, marbles, hopscotch, and Squid Game.
Yeah. So was that in the order?
Yes. So there was the recruiting
Oh,
game. They
so so
counted that in
so
it too, but
yeah, so yeah, the sugar honeycomb. I was about to say that, but I wasn't sure if that was the third one or not.
mm-hmm.
So I couldn't remember, and I knew the marbles was later in the game. Um,
Yeah, that was the one I
and
couldn't place, the sugar honeycomb one, because it didn't occur to me. So I think it's kind of funny that they kind of got this wrong, because they're counting the recruiting game, and they're counting they're counting that, but in between tug of war and in between sugar honeycombs and tug of war, that's when they did the lights out game, which wasn't really a game. It was just a fucking free for all, but still.
it was much more of a that was when they were just wanting to see like how far people were willing to go and everything
Mm-hmm.
like that. Yeah, that's essentially what they were doing, just because the game master was pretty much wanting to set stuff up.
Yep. And he was a glorious piece of shit, but all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, and I mean, and that's the weirdest part about this whole situation, like the fact that how childish it was. With all of these games, you could have had these people, straight up just hand them guns and say, "All right, you need to kill the enemy team." That's it. Look, go for it. But no, they organize this so these people are doing crazy simple shit like basically hopscotch and playing jacks type of games for us here in the U.S. That the kids games hopscotch, jacks, and dodgeball, kickball, that kind of stuff. It's
Okay.
astonishing.
Okay. So that is something that I actually do want to talk about. I don't know if you want to kind of bring it up now or bring it
Go
up
for
towards the later. So that was actually a really funny question that after Squid Game came out and it was kind of going viral. If Squid Game was something in like the U.S., what games do you think that we would actually play? Because
it.
red light, green light, it's kind of a universal game because yeah, they play it, we play it in the US. So that one can still be in. Hopscotch could still be in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Tug of war, same thing. But the honeycomb, um
That's
honeycomb
not a
obviously,
thing here. Most of
yeah,
at least that I'm aware of, commonly.
yeah, yeah, right. Honeycomb is not there. Obviously the Squid Game itself is not. And
Mm-hmm.
then marbles, depending on how you play it, is definitely played differently all across the world. So let's just kind of think of like a new slate, and we had to do 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
What games do you think the U.S. would we would have technically for Squid Game? Um, and again, this would technically have to be like schoolyard games, and it can't be something like shoots and ladders or can it?
Funny enough, I would say three card money might be part of it, because that's it's a gambling game, but it's also something that kids play too. Find the find the king, find the queen, find the ace kind of shit. That is a thing that's part of it too. So if you really wanted to stretch out your game a little bit longer, towards the end you'd have the last couple of contestants split off into pairs, and then you'd make them play 3 card monte against each other, and whoever you go 3 rounds, and whoever loses twice dies. I'd say 3 card monte would be part of it.
See, the weird thing about that one on like I see where you're coming from
Hmm.
on why I don't think 3 card money would work because typically 3 card money would have to involve one of the workers essentially dealing the game. And if that was the case, they're somewhat interfering because as easily as like a snap of a finger, the game master can just tell them like, yeah, I don't want guy A, so we got to trick that.
Well, no,
So
because it's the same as the marbles game. You give them they get their 3 cards and they play against each other. Because the main focus of this is that at no point during any of these games does any one person have a strict advantage over everyone else. That's consistent throughout the entire Squid Games. Because like red light, green light, the old man had an advantage just because he had watched it enough times. He knew the timing. In the sugarcomb games, the smart guy had an advantage because he figured it out earlier, and he was able to do he was able to pick out the easiest version of the things that they were trying to cut out of the honeycombs.
yeah, the shape.
Yeah, tug of war. You'd think the advantage would go to the biggest people in the matches and stuff, but it didn't really quite go that way. Same thing with marbles. You got to pick, and if you could play this in a way that you made the other person choose a game that was not their strong suit, you could steal a win from somebody who in any other game would probably kill you. Same thing with hopscotch, ironically enough. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think their version of hopscotch is the same as ours.
No, obviously, yeah. Our hopscotch what consists of like 8 blocks, 10 blocks. Um, no, yeah, and yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from.
Mhm.
I guess with me, with the way like 3 card money, yeah, just kind of going back to like what I said is just essentially, yeah, it just that one kind of does give someone quote unquote an advantage
Mhm.
because everyone who was essentially in that like the Squid Game was in some sort of debt, and some of them could honestly be, um, uh, a gambling like card addict,
Uh
and
huh.
they know how to do the 3 card money, and so which means if it came down to that, they obviously have a advantage.
So would we
Um,
would be able to meet in the middle and do it's essentially the same thing, but the high cup and ball kind of thing.
Up and ball. That one I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is a little bit harder unless you're like a magician. And you're like really good with sleight of hand.
Mhm.
It is going to be a little bit. Yeah, I feel like that one is a little bit more fair. Um, you just have to essentially. The only hard part is with that, and and this kind of goes for that marble, the marble game too.
Mhm.
Is you have to put it at a number because the marble game is pretty much you lose all your marbles, you're out.
Yeah.
But with the cup and ball, you would have to essentially do either the same thing where like okay, cool. If I guess the ball, I get your ball.
Mhm.
But then if
Oh yeah. So if you play the game 3 times, and whoever has enough of the balls, they win.
essentially, yeah. So it just has to be something along the lines is like, all right, whoever gets to like five
Mm-hmm.
first with a 2 point lead.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Uh,
actually, that does remind me. There is another version of something that could take the place of the marbles or the cup and ball game, which is the same thing as three card monte, but with a cup and a ball. But that's the I can't remember what it's called now. So basically, you and I we both hold up our fists. We touch one hand to the other. You put up a finger, and then you keep going until one of you screws up, and you have all of your fingers up, and you lose a hand. So now you have to keep trying. So basically, I think it's called odds or evens. I can't remember the name of the game now.
okay. Yeah,
But
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, so that might be one that you could put in place of that, because at least in that one you have to kind of understand the game and be able to think a little bit further ahead.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Sorry.
So what about you? What would you add into it? So we got possibly 3-ish games so far.
Um, off the top of my head,
Hmm.
thinking of like schoolyard games, I guess you could say. Uh, something along the lines of like tetherball or Foursquare.
I never played Foursquare. What's that one?
Foursquare is pretty simple. You have obviously you have four squares on the ground in the shape of a cube,
Hmm.
and you play with four players, and it varies everywhere you go. It'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like each square there's a numbered, but
Hmm.
then other places that have seen it where you have king, queen, jack, um, yeah, king, queen, jack, and then you have your joker. Um,
Hmm.
the king would be the main square. They always start off with the ball. Queen is power in hand. Jack and Joker. And the way it works is like so the king starts off the ball. They'll hit it anywhere they want in one of the other person's square, and if it hits that person's square, then that person has to hit that ball in someone else's square.
Hmm.
And it kind of you kind of just keep going that over and over and over. You are out is if it hits your square and it bounces out and you don't catch it. Or like not catch it, but like you don't hit it back, or it double bounces in your box essentially.
Ah, okay.
Um, and then pretty much that person be out. Whoever's next in line would come play. And the easiest way to kind of explain it is like, let's say if you are king and I'm playing in the queen box, and then someone else is in the jack box, someone else is in the joker's box. Joker is obviously the lowest. So let's say if I get out, whoever's in the jack spot moves over to the queen,
Hmm.
you stay king, and then whoever's in the joker will um move over to jack. So it just essentially rotates that, so you kind of go up the scale. So let's say if you were to go out next, whoever was in queen will move over to king, and then jack moves up to queen, joker moves over to jack, kind of goes on from that.
Ah,
So
okay.
that is essentially the premise of Foursquare. And then every quote unquote king or whoever's number one typically has like their own set of rules. And this again, depending on where you play and what school you play in, like people will say like, oh, there's no carries or like no double bounce or um, no certain types of hits, no kicking the ball, because some people will try to like save the ball by like sticking their foot out to kick it.
Yeah.
Um,
You would
stuff
have
like
to
that.
catch it or you're dead.
Yeah, you would have to catch it, or you would have to hit it back into someone else's square. If you hit it in your own square, you're obviously out. So I think that would be a really good game. Um, and that one, hmm, I would possibly kind of, because the easiest part is to kind of figure out, you know, okay, you lose, you're dead.
Hmm.
Um, the easiest way to kind of think about it, like if you're going to do this one, this would be a game to essentially mass. Essentially, it's like the marbles game. It's literally you eliminate half of the game population by playing that game.
Yeah, because it
Yeah,
at the very least 1/4 of it, because you'd be like, oh, anybody left in a Joker's box dies.
yeah, pretty much. And or it could even be like, okay, everybody assemble yourself in groups of 10 or
Hmm.
whatever, or 20, and then you play. And then once there's only down to the last four people, then those are the one who move on. So let's say there's um 10 sets of four squares, so which means pretty much by the time it's done and over with, you only got 40 players left.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a quick one. That's a quick way to eliminate a fair amount of them too, and you have to be way more careful about the one-to-one nature of the games. So,
Yeah, so pretty much you just have to like, and this one, that one is definitely going to be a game where you do have to like, essentially like you are going to be teaming up, but at the same time, it's like uh, it's how everyone thinks like, yeah, 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 let's partner up, let's team up, let's team up. Oh wait, you're now going against your partner, or you're going to get going up.
hmm so that would be a good maybe third or fourth game out of the six.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
And
then with, oh sorry, go for it.
I was gonna say, so I would say, so we haven't really come up with a first or a second game yet. Something that would like really chop out like a good portion of the total group. I would say at the very least a good second game, maybe a good third game, would be something like dodgeball instead of tug of war, because it's the same thing. Teams of 10, just like he had said, for that one, teams of 10 versus the teams of 4 for Foursquare. So teams of 10, losing game dodgeball, platform opens up and pff, there you go.
Yeah, that's actually really good. I actually do like that. I was gonna say, have you ever heard of the game? At least where, at least when I went to school, they called it
The what?
Sharks and Minnows.
Oh, kind of like the freeze tag game, except it's way more animated and active, right?
It is essentially the easiest way, like on how I remembered it was, and this is kind of like a game of like it does involve running and everything, kind of
Mm-hmm.
um like red light, green light. Sharks and Minnows essentially like you have however many people. Typically, you start off with like one or two sharks in the middle of the field, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have everyone line up on the other side, and then they'll yell out "minnows cross." And once they yell that out, everyone tries to run across the field. And again, this is back when we played it. We had flags. Anyone who had their flag ripped off became a shark, and so which
Ah,
means, yeah. So if anyone had their flag ripped off, you're dead.
unless you could steal somebody else's.
And that could be a good, yeah, that could be a good play
Mm-hmm.
if you want to do like that. But
So you
yeah,
gotta
back.
have like the remaining players pull straws, and whoever ends up with the colored straw, they don't get a flag, and they have to steal somebody else's flag so they don't die.
Essentially, yeah.
Hmm. Okay, I like that. That's an interesting one. I
But
think I
again,
think yours might be a good first game.
for
Get
that one, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on how many people end up as sharks. Oh my god, yeah, that could really sting the whole thing.
Exactly. And what they could do is essentially, kind of like red light, green light. Yeah, you have the one giant dog kind of spotting everything. With this one, you can, um, or even if you want to change it, and instead of playing that, you can do hide and go seek.
Hmm.
Give everybody like obviously a closed off like field, ankle bracelet, monitor, something that way. If you try to and they'll clearly state like, this is your play zone. If you go out, you are gonna die. And
Hmm.
then pretty much what's gonna happen is, okay, uh, they'll give you 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes to hide, and then the game itself will last for an hour or whatever, and there'll be 5 people searching.
Hmm.
You get found, you're dead.
I would say even five of the handlers. I
Yeah.
can't remember. Triangle was the highest rank, right? And then square was the second, and circle was the grunt.
Uh, switch square and circle. I think square was the highest one, and then triangle was next. Wait,
Ah,
maybe,
hold on.
maybe.
We're checking on that too. Yeah, we should. I should have rewatched it.
Dude, it's been a while. So, square, yeah, square is highest. Triangle is second. Circle's lowest.
Gotcha. First thing that came up for me was who was the staff. I didn't ask who the staff was. I asked.
But
I asked what the ranks were for the mask guys.
okay, so and then going back to it, like so we essentially have the games and everything. So kind of going back, yeah, your overall thoughts, like, yeah, we both agree it is a really great show, definitely worth watching.
Oh yeah.
So kind of thinking of it, like I obviously asked you, did you cry? And you obviously know the scene. What was your thought of that?
I was angry.
Really?
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't go to tears. I went to rage. Yeah, of course, like enclosed, because like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Pick up my chair and throw it across my room? No, I was just in my chair, like, oh, yeah, I'd try to stab the motherfucker right then and there too. That's understandable.
Yeah.
Because like, what was the fucking point? She was already bleeding out. Even if she wanted to, the likelihood of her participating in the next game was nothing. And he still felt it necessary to kill somebody who was essentially laying on their deathbed.
Oh shoot, we're on the different part. I was talking about the old man dying.
Oh, fuck that guy.
Really?
Yeah, I was emotionally invested in like in like either the main character, that like the main character, or the girl. Like I kept thinking like, okay, smart guy's gonna fucking die. That's it. He's been a piece of shit for half this show. I get why he's been a piece of shit, but he's a piece of shit. Now, admitted definitely that the main character did do a piece of shit move, messing with the old guy so that he could live.
Yeah.
Piece of shit move. Piece of shit move made out of desperation versus piece of shit move made out of trying to make himself in the best position. Fuck that guy. Yeah. Fuck the old guy too. Mostly because like I don't know I don't know how long I would have to be a rich asshole to get to the stage in my life where it's fun for me to gather up a bunch of people, make them play a game, and if they lose, they die. I genuinely don't know how I would get to that stage in my life.
Yeah, I don't know. That was definitely that was definitely something that was like, that's pretty much at this point we're just freaking waiting for Jeff Bezos. Like, you know what? I'm so freaking rich. I'm gonna make a real Squid Game.
Shit, Mr. Beast was gonna do that. I don't know if he'll ever actually do it. He did.
He actually did.
You guys
I never watched it though, but
neither did I. But that guy's a fucking nut job. I mean, and now I'm assuming that even that he basically he met them in the middle, and nobody died, but there was a cash prize and there was a bunch of games that you had to play, and if you lost the games, you lost out on the money. You know, like a normal game show.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
and
man.
I feel like it's a funny thing. Like like again, I haven't seen any of his or at least his version of Squid Game video.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he actually replicated those games exactly. Because honestly, probably the toughest game, or not toughest, but like the most unique game out of all of them was, the honeycomb game. And after we saw how they essentially did it, I'm pretty sure if he actually did recreate that, you would see everyone just as soon as they got their honeycomb, just start licking the crap out of it. So I
Hmm.
just again, I never watched his videos, or at least for that one, and actually I never really watched any of his videos in general.
You know what's funny is I don't know if I ever would have thought of doing that. Like you know how when you watch it, you're like, oh, that's a great idea. But I don't know. A lot of people go like, oh, I'm going to remember that so I can use it if I'm ever in this situation. but I don't know. Introspection, looking at it, my first thought is I don't think I would ever actually come up with that as an idea. I'd probably start scratching at it and trying my best to kind of like chip away from the outside towards it or something like that. I would try to come up with any way that I could use the tool that they gave me to work it out. I don't think it would ever occur to me to make it thinner than it already was, to make it easier to cut it out.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, that was something. As soon as he saw like licking it, I was like, well, I'm pretty stupid.
Right? Like, that's a good fucking idea.
Shit. I mean, granted, it was something like, oh yeah, we played as a child, then oh yeah, I can eat this stuff. What the heck am I doing?
Honestly, that would probably, at my fat ass, that would be my first thought, is be like, why is this a game? This is food.
Right.
Now, actually, after having watched the show, of course, my brain went straight to, I'm gonna make my family play this.
Oh, dude,
That would
do
be a
it.
lot of fun. And I fucking hate caramel too. That's the worst part.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah,
I don't mind, but
yeah.
but
Actually, that
kind of
caramel probably fine because it's actually like, but I guess you could say almost more like that buttery kind of caramel. You know, like where you actually
yeah,
stir it and it gets the air pockets in it. It changes the
yeah.
flavor enough that it doesn't really taste quite the same as if you were to, like, I don't know, like put a
Eat
layer
that.
of sugar on barbecue and caramelize that, or making caramelized onions or something like that. I don't know. It comes out slightly different enough that I don't care too much
Mhm.
about those being caramel, but like caramel, can't can't stand it.
Right.
No, I so we got 5 games now. So I would say, what do you think? What do you think the fifth game would have to be? Like something that's so unique to America, because the Squid Game, I recognize elements of that in a game that we did play. It's a team based game,
Hmm.
very similar to that, where you had a circle and 3 points on a grid, but it's you played it on a basketball court, and it was more like a running game. So you needed 2 blockers and you needed 1 runner, and the idea was that your blockers had to participate in distracting blockers, but also making a hole for the runners to get through. So it's almost like a capture the flag kind of thing. But Squid Games, they took that to a completely new level with the 3 different boxes and the different ways to get around it and how the game actually works.
Hmm.
I can't think of a game that's unique enough to America that would be something that only we would have.
And essentially, that you play with what, 2 people, 3 people?
Yeah, that at the very least you can pull the game off with 2 or 3 people at the most. Because I mean, they set it up that way, but there was a very real possibility that final game, that final Squid Game, was going to be a two-parter thing where you had one person blocking and the
Hmm.
other 2 people trying to get past him.
Hmm.
Mhm. Would have been
That's
a hell of a show to try to see how that played out, but
that's a really good question, because now that I'm like thinking about it, like what games does the US have that you can essentially play with like 1 to 3 people, or sorry, 2 to 3 people? Um,
but that's also super unique to the continent, or to the country. I mean,
hmm,
I guess you could argue that if it's popular here, then it's probably also popular in northern Mexico and parts of Canada. But other than
our
dodgeball, but dodgeball is not something that's just ours. I don't think it ever really has been.
poker 5 card draw.
That would be a funny one. You either gotta bluff them in. That the only reason that doesn't work is because you gotta bluff somebody into folding, and it just can't work.
Yeah, with your life depending on it, yeah, you're
Yeah.
not gonna fold. I was like, I don't care. I have a 2 and a 3, and that's it. Or sorry, I'm thinking of Texas Hold'em.
Hmm.
Um, I was like, I have a ace, I have a 4, I got a 7, and I got a queen, and I got an 8. What the hell am I gonna do?
I can only think of one game, but it's a bullshit game that was made up for a movie. And I've never heard of this being a real thing that exists outside of Pirates of the Caribbean, and that's the pirate dice.
You're gonna have to refresh my mind on this.
Long story short, you and I, we both get a cup. Obviously, it has to be opaque. We get 5 die, and we rattle the shit up, slap it on the table, look at it, and then we place a bet. And the way we place the bet is I say I have, out of these 5 die and your 5 die, out of all of the die that are on the table currently, there is this many of this number. Each round, one die gets removed from the cup, of course, so it makes it harder to play each round you go through it. So, maximum amount of times this game can be played is 5 rounds amongst all players. And the way this shit has to work is each time we go through it, I have to basically I basically have to either determine whether or not you're a liar or you're telling the truth. If I call your bluff and you were not lying, I lose. If you call the bluff and you were not lying, then you lose.
Hmm.
I don't know how that works out for a death, other than you have to win a certain amount of rounds, and if somebody guesses wrong 3 times, or if somebody gets called a liar correctly 3 times out of 5, then they're dead. But that's the only other game that I could think of that's unique enough to the States.
That is interesting, but the weird thing is, I've heard of a game that's very similar to that that's actually played in Asia.
See, that would make sense since it's supposed to be a pirate game, and the reason I haven't heard of it is because we just don't play it in the States.
Yeah. So, what? Yeah, I'm not that. Yeah, that's hard. What games do we play?
So hold on, let me double check something here.
Mhm.
Pirate dice or liar's dice, highly regarded bluff game, dice that's been around for. Okay, yeah, it is an old game. That game's been around for hundreds of years apparently, and
Mhm.
it's not called pirate's dice. It's called liar's dice.
Iris.
Yeah, it was just more popularized culturally in the United States because of the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie,
Slapjack.
Slapjack. I think that one's also pretty English. So I guess I guess we could expand this to being games that are unique to Western countries.
That's Google. Um. So, unique schoolyard games that's to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Cup stacking. No.
That, yeah, I was gonna say that's not even a game. That's just a passing of the time kind of thing.
Jump rope.
That's not unique either. They do that in China and Japan at minimum.
Hmm.
Even double dutch. That's just a thing that people. That's just a thing that kids figure out how to do.
Yeah, that's so strange. I think we don't. You know what? Let's take away.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take away. Let's take away the uniqueness of the U.S. just because. Yes. In Squid Game, there was like there was tug of war that's pretty much universal. Red light, green light that's universal.
Mm-hmm.
Hopscotch, quote unquote, is universal. So
Here's one that might be it. Lock. It's called Pittu. Pittu. People had to stop the game because some hit the ball too hard and one person ended up crying. For those who call it a different name, this game where two teams form. Player from one team would need to break the pile of stones by hitting it with a ball, and then all the members of the same team would try to put the pile back up while the member of the other team would hit you with a ball to stop you from making it.
I don't think that one will work.
No, that's definitely a team game.
I think what we can do is we can change. I think we can do hide and go seek as the final game.
Oh shit! I got it. The floor is lava.
We can do that one as the first game, and we can put hide and go seek as the last game. The reason I'm saying it like this is the floor is lava could be a great game to eliminate a lot of people, quote unquote, kind of like red light, green light.
Yeah.
Now with hide and go seek, if you're down to 2-3 people, everyone obviously has to go hide, and whoever is pretty much the last person to be discovered is going to be the winner.
Oh, that's a good one too.
That's just my hypothesis.
Interesting. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, because the rest of these games, they're not unique to the U.S.
Yeah, and with and with the floor is lava, that is great. Like, everyone's quote unquote essentially going to be running to try to make it to the other thing, but then as they're going, you just literally see like the floor just starts like dropping, or the floor starts opening, or whatever the case may be, and there it is. There's lava.
Oh, I think I figured out why my thing got fucked up. Is because it auto-corrected from children's games played in Western cultures to different cultures. No idea why.
I can't help you there, buddy.
Yeah, no, I have no fucking idea why that happened.
Yeah. Well, I think we got the 6 games.
That's, yeah. So then... yeah, all of these games are dumb stuff like restaurant game, road trip, license plate game, Rochambeau, secret agent spy game, tag, thumb wrestling, wall ball. Like these are not unique to the U.S. These are played all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? It might be because of American soldiers that happened. Because I've heard that's where some of the more interesting little cultural similarities come from. Is just the exposure to the United States Army around the world. Of the oh my god, I want to say it was the during the Korean War, they introduced baseball into it, and there were certain regions of Korea where they're like, this game's fucking awesome. I can't remember the whole history for that, but that's happened a couple of times in different places.
Oh, I mean, whatever works, right?
Yeah, very much agreed there. But so then let's talk about the elephant in the room then. So now that we got that going, enough of the plot summary. You guys can watch the rest of it for yourselves. But we'll skip right to the end here. Main character wins the game. Glasses guy, the smart guy, sacrifices himself basically, almost in repentance for his actions. And as fucked up as the whole situation is, the one guy, the main character wins, gets rewarded his oh god, I can't remember. It comes out to something like 40 million US, somewhere around that.
Yeah, about 40 million US.
Yeah, and then for a year, he essentially he doesn't go back to his way of life. He goes back to his home, finds his mom, who had succumbed to her untreated diabetes, and he just finds her dead for God knows how long on the floor in her kitchen, and it breaks him because he just went through all of this with the hopes, at the very least, to just say, "Hey, Mom, we're gonna be fine." And he didn't even get to do that, so he just let it go, and he lived as a homeless man for a year. We come back to seeing him getting called into into the bank. They're basically just asking him, since you deposited all this money, you haven't touched it, do you want us to invest it for you or something like that? And he just basically like, I don't fucking give a shit, leave it alone. And then my favorite part of this whole scene is that he asked the guy to borrow fucking bus money.
$10, yeah, like essentially $10.
He's a fucking millionaire, and he just, by the way, can I borrow 10,000 won?
Yeah, right. It's just like he which actually I actually did it. I think it was like $8. 10,000 won, like
yeah, because it doesn't add out perfectly to the zero. It was like something. There's 490 something players, added up to 490 million won or something like that, and it doesn't totally add up to, like, it doesn't add up $490 million, or it doesn't devolve down to $40 million US. It's like 43 million and some change, but still, it's a fuckload of money, more than anybody could probably spend in their lifetime. Unless they're my grandmother, but yeah, that was rude. I'm sorry, Grandma. So essentially, the question that I have for you after seeing that part there is like, I mean, I think after going through all of that shit, I would probably feel pretty terrible about it. I mean, I'd probably pay off all my debts, but I don't know if I would actually want to use that money for anything. Maybe I'll fall into like some seriously like altruistic behavior and try my hardest to make up for all the shit that I did to get that money in the first place. But I don't know if I would just punish myself for a year by living as a hobo.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I guess it's just kind of hitting to like the quote unquote reality of like he's literally lost everything. Like he lost the very last thing that was in his life, which was his mom, and quote unquote his daughter was gone. Like they moved over to America, so he literally had no one there. And that the girl, her little brother, he ended up taking her over to to his friend's mom, because he essentially says like, hey, I know this is not technically your child, but your child's dead, without telling her, and take care of this one, type of deal.
Yeah, that part I thought was a little weird. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it would just be weird because I'm a dude, but I feel like I'd feel really morally obligated to look after that kid, like personally look after that kid, even if I left all my money to him and then went off into the sunset to die as a hobo or kill myself, whatever the case may be. I don't think I don't think I'd be like, hey, remember me? I was your son's friend in middle school. He's dead, and another friend that we had this little brother. She's dead too. Do you mind taking care of him for a bit? By the way, here's this briefcase full of money. See you later.
Yeah, right. It's just like what can you do? Like, it would be so hard to try to take care of that child on your own. I mean, granted, like you literally just came home, and yeah, they're like, okay, well, my mom's gone. I seriously don't.
I fucking can't take care of myself. How the hell am I going to take care of this kid? I think that's the thing there, is that again, I was trying to put myself into the situation too much, and I was just like, well, no, this guy's just trying to do the best that he can, but he didn't. I thought it was kind of interesting how it almost seemed like he needed to have that catharsis of proving the old guy wrong so that he would feel comfortable actually taking a step in his life, because that was the other thing about it, where it's like I'm glad you got emotional during that scene, but again, I was just fervently angry the entire time that was happening, because I'm like, I fucking knew it. And even though he's laying there on his deathbed and they're having this conversation, I gotta say, I think it was the most like realistically depicted conversation that I would ever think of. These two people essentially both had a year to think about what they would say if they got to talk to anybody that they could during that time. The old guy had a little bit more of an advantage there because he had the opportunity to think about what he was going to say to this guy specifically.
Yeah.
And the conversation still, I got the feeling that it was not going the way that either of them would have ever thought the conversation would go.
Right.
I think that's amazing.
And even to the freaking very end, he still wanted to just play a game.
Yep. just trying at every instance that he could to recapture a little bit of his joyful youth, which again, part of me's kind of like I think the line that always bugs me is, and I think it was supposed to. I love the way that it played out after having my initial emotional reaction to it, which was, do you know what a rich man and a poor man have in common? They both have more time than they know what to do with, or more money than they know what to do with, or something. God damn it, I fucked it up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was essentially, it was one of those things that it's like, oh, money can't buy happiness, and it's like, says the fucking millionaire. Go to hell.
Right.
It's like you're the last person that I would ever take. It's like your problem is that you always wanted more than you had. Most people just want enough so that they're not scared.
So let's kind of jump to like the theories. So obviously you've seen the videos of some of the theories, right?
Yeah, I did see a few. I think my favorite one was the one that you pointed me towards. So if you want to talk about that one, it has to do with why he was so focused on that one particular character.
So the old man focusing on the main character. So essentially, the overall theory for that one was, again, this is a really good theory, like which I really do like, was that the old man was essentially his father. The old man was the main character's father, and yeah, this was. I really like the theory because it definitely made a lot of sense. Because when they got into the marbles game, they got into like so much. Just like the old man is like, "Oh, I remember this place. This is where I grew up," and and the kid and the main character was pretty much just like, "Yeah, I grew up in a place exactly like this and everything like that," and it also kind of emphasized when he was talking about the milk. It was like, "Oh, do you have chocolate milk?" And the old man says, "Yeah, my son was exactly the same thing." And so that's where the theory was so strong that the old man was his father, and that's why he was so focused on the main character compared to everyone else. But again, that is just a theory, but it was also one of those things where the old man, because of quote unquote how smart he is, he saw something in the main character, and that's why he kind of was attracted to him. Granted, he was also the old man was the only guy who actually ended up being at the same place as the main character when they were sitting outside of the convenience stores eating and drinking. But
I think I think that lends credence to it, because I can't tell the difference between whether or not the idea here is that they're related, or if they're just cut from the same cloth. Like, from the moment they first started speaking to each other, from the very first game, he just got this feeling that's like, something about you reminds me of myself. So he put himself in a place where he would actually be able to interact with him, and him directly, several times.
Yeah, so that is a really good thing. It's just like, well, was it just by luck, or was it literally by like
design?
Yeah, design. There you go. Could not think of that word.
You're good. I'm sorry. I always got to be careful doing that, because my family does that. We'll get stuck on one thing. We're like, and then we'll just try to guess it for each other.
Uh-huh.
That's just something that I do now.
Like, stop saying words because now you're making me forget it more.
It's like, I'm sorry, my family gets stuck, and that's how we get past it. Somebody goes, by design? Yes. Yes, that's it. Okay. And then they continue their thought. It's funny to see us do it, too, because I don't know, maybe you've noticed me doing it sometimes, so I'll get into it, and I'll be like, fuck. Can't remember where that's going. And I gotta say, I don't really buy a lot of the theories, but all of the ones that I saw, that was the one that was the one that kind of made the most sense. I saw another one. I don't know why so many of them are about these people being related to each other, like the little angsty girl and the loner girl were related too, and it's like, why the fuck do you guys? They're just similar to each other. That's why they.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't really understand, like, you and someone you don't know could seriously have 110 things and you don't even know it, and then you meet each other and you get along so well and you're like, wow, it's like we have so much in common but we're not related.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just due to the fact that you have, like, you essentially like this is the easiest way to.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I agree with you on that one too, because you never really know. I first, like, for example, where I met you in community college, where it at the time we were just taking a fucking jazz class because we needed to have that cultural credit for the yeah. And it was like, God, I have very fond memories of that class because the teacher was so animated and just so into the whole thing. And I like jazz already. I swear to God, that was legitimately the thing that I said when I was looking over all the humanities courses that I could take to meet that credit requirement. And I was like, I like jazz.
Right? Dude, the only reason I enjoyed that class was he played the sax.
Oh, that
In
was
that
so
class.
fun. That's such a good instrument.
And I'm gonna be completely honest with you, and I honestly don't care about this now.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I cheated in that.
It's really hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, people. It's really easy to do on account of the fact that, like, you know, he gave in the book had a CD in it, and the test was going to be identifying a 10-second clip from each of those songs. So all you had to do was listen to the songs and try to remember which song was which. So, like, even if you did cheat, that really wasn't that hard of a test to pass. It was a super easy class to pass as the whole situation, because that could have super easily been a history class on jazz, but it wasn't. It was an appreciation class of jazz.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, like, where I sat, the guy that I sat to next, this was when what was it, Shazam barely came out, and so I was sitting next to him, and our desk, like the person in front of us, was so close behind us that the professor couldn't exactly see.
Mm-hmm.
And the professor would just stand in front of the class the whole time. So when he would play that 8-second clip, the guy who was sitting next to me would hit Shazam, and he had the phone between us. So it would show us what it is, and we just write it down. And we did that every single time.
So I tried to take them honestly, and I would have. Most of the time, I didn't even listen to half the songs. I was just like, fuck. I only listened to the ones that I ended up only listening to the ones that I liked, and I still at least got a B.
I don't even remember what grade I got, to be completely honest with you. All I know is that somehow I passed that class, and it was most likely due to the guy who was sitting next to me with the Shazam.
Yeah. Oh shit. Most of the time when we walked out of that class, my first thought is like, this is an elective. Fuck.
Right?
No, that's better than the creating college success class. I always tell terrible stories about that, especially when I'm trying to relate to people who are currently trying to enroll into college. Because it's just like, oh god, yeah, you don't want to this type of, if you had this type of experience, that's not going to be a fun situation for you, because they're all going to require you to do this particular type of class. So fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
But but yeah, I digress. That is kind of the oddity about the whole relation to how you can form connections with people that you otherwise have no connection to. The entire little group of people there, they trusted each other, and to some of them, that was their downfall.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, kind of going back to it, like that crazy girl, that crazy lady who pretty much like screwed the gangster. I gotta give her props. Like,
Literally.
yeah, figuratively and literally. um, and yeah, I gotta give her props. She did essentially the right thing. She was like, you know what, you effed me over, so here's a hug, goodbye. Oh, by the way, you're coming with me.
And that was something that I wasn't expecting from that person too, because you didn't get a chance to know anything about them
Mhm.
at any point. I don't remember them explaining anything about their past. I don't
Yeah, for
remember.
that girl, yeah. The
Yeah,
the, the crazy lady, yeah. I don't remember anything either.
yeah.
Like, which is weird because as you're watching the show, they did explain, like, they did give the backstory on at least the gangster, because I
Hmm.
guess he was much more of a main character, I guess, compared to her, because she literally sat out for like a whole entire game. Everyone was expecting her to die, but oh, lo and behold, she's alive.
Oh,
I'm like,
guess
what
what? I
the
got to sit out. Ha 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 ha. Fuck y'all. And all of them were like, "This bitch."
right, dude? It's like, at what point do we just stab her? It's like, is anyone gonna turn off the lights again?
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, that part was fucked up. But at the same time, I loved her final moment because it was, you got to see it in her eyes. It was just like, oh, what do I do here? Like, why am I here? What's the whole point of me even bothering with this in the first place?
Hmm.
It's because fuck you. That's why.
Hmm.
I love that was her attitude for the whole situation.
Hmm.
Uh,
One thing, kind of going back to like that game where she pretty much sacrificed herself and she took
mhm.
out the guy. So obviously that one guy was doing a really good job and like figuring out like which piece of glass was um uh cannot think of the name of the glass.
Tempered.
Uh yeah, tempered glass, and which one was the regular glass.
Hmm.
And watching it, how do you think that could have been played differently in like in your perspective? Like, let's say if you were in that situation and you had to figure out the glasses.
Oh, I know how to do the same thing he did. Yeah, I didn't work in a glass factory or anything like that, but you can tell the difference in the tone. I actually do something very similar with metal, where you can tell like the difference between high carbon and mild steel by the way it rings when you tap it. Also, tempered and untempered steel, that also has a different frequency of ringing and stuff. So I can totally see a situation where this guy can see, because if next time you get a chance to look at it,
Hmm.
tempered versus untempered glass, it's very rare to find, but there's a different, the light catches it different because of the chemical composition that's in it. Uh,
Hmm.
Untempered glass is way clearer. That's pretty much all he was looking for. He was looking for like a slight green and kind of what's the word I'm looking for? A slight green rainbowish kind of shimmer. And if you see
Hmm.
that shimmer, then that's the tempered glass. If it doesn't have that shimmer, it's not tempered. So he did
Hmm.
such a good job for that. Now the only part of this where I was like, "You guys fucking suck," is when they were like, "Oh, it looks like he can tell the difference. Might as well turn off the lights." Haha. Like, just fucking let him go to the next game, you douche.
Right. There's just much more things like there's too many people that's gonna make this or something along the lines. Um, One of the things that a lot of that it made a lot of sense. You could have just walked across the middle using the two bars.
I'm pretty sure they would have shot you.
They That's the thing, is like you could have tried. And
Hmm.
if it didn't work, then what you could have done was, if you had to step on the glass, um, walk on that bar and like walk on that bar, or at least walk on the glass, like jump on it lighter, if that makes.
See, but you can only test that for the one that's directly in front of you. I mean, like, don't be wrong, it could work if that one breaks. Okay. That being
Mhm.
said, there is also a pretty strong chance that you could kick it. You could like get your foot out there and kick it, and if
Mhm.
it breaks, maybe it broke because it was tempered. It wasn't. It was the untempered glass, or maybe it broke because you fucking bull in a china shop and you shattered it, so now nobody gets to live.
Or what I would have done was go like instead of jumping on, walk on the bar so that you can get as close to that piece of glass or whatever and then just step on it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
Even with light glass, even with regular glass, I mean, sorry, you still have a chance of like, it holding. And if
Yeah,
anyone else is stupid enough to jump on it, then that's their dumb about that.
yeah. So I guess the only other alternative there that you could do is try to position yourself so that when you jump on it, you could catch yourself on the rail. So at the very least, you'd be like, "Don't shoot me. I know I guessed wrong, but I'm still alive. Give me a chance to make it to the next panel."
Essentially, yeah, if they're gonna be that nice, but
I don't think they
it
would be. I think if you did catch yourself and you were dangling like that, they'd shoot you.
maybe, yeah. But at the same time, I think one of the things like um you kind of have to think outside the box for the game. Like you just have
Yeah.
to survive and win the game. Granted, if you were to think of it, like it wasn't until the game master, or I'm pretty sure I'm saying it,
Well, the rich assholes.
yeah, decided to like, oh, we're gonna turn off the light. Was when they did that. If it was left like them just watching, and the game masters weren't really a part of it, and they had no like essential control,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that you would have been perfectly fine to just walk across using the two bars in the middle. Is my
Hmm. I mean that could be a creative solution. I do think that they would probably find a way to be like, no, can't do that shit, or because that would be the alternative that I would say is going to be involved in that situation is, you could find it are almost like what's stopping somebody from just kind of taking the honeycomb biscuit thing and just eating the surrounding part of it
Mhm.
up until you get to the actual shape that you're trying to get out of the overall biscuit. I'm pretty sure
um
if you did that, they would immediately shoot you.
no, no, they wouldn't. The reason behind it is a lot of people
Uh-huh.
that have tried like that have recreated the honeycomb game.
Hmm.
It is so difficult to try to cut. If you were to try to bite on it, you can't risk that
Mm.
because it will crack all the way through. And I've seen people do it from the same size to creating ones that are literally 10 times bigger.
Hmm. Just to see if it
And
would.
yeah, and they tried it. Yeah, and there was a guy, his name, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but his name is Matt Stoney.
I've heard it
Um,
before. I've just never watched any of his stuff.
oh yeah, he's a competitive eater, and obviously, like went with the whole hype of Squid Game. He made a huge, like I'm probably, and I think he came out to like about 3-4 pounds
Oh yeah.
of that honeycomb, and
Hey.
he was going through and he was doing it and everything, and yeah, literally barely. All he did was he held up the honeycomb and it cracked. But now, granted that could possibly be the weight because it is like 4 pounds.
Hmm.
With something that small, if you were to just try to nibble or bite on it like that hard, I'm pretty sure it's gonna crack all the way. So, in all honesty, with them licking it, that they never shot him. It was like, hey, you did what you had to do to win. And granted, yeah, they didn't catch the cheaters who used the lighter or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure if they were to like, you just walk across the middle,
Hmm.
like is not really quote unquote cheating. Like, yes, you're still playing the game. You still made it across. You didn't use the glass technically, but you found a way around it.
I would want to reward creative solutions if I was the game master, but I don't
Exactly.
I don't know if I
Agreed.
would. Yeah, I don't know if I would be as stingy as that, especially even when the rich guys show up and stuff and be like, "Oh yeah, seems like he can tell the difference." Yeah, it's almost like they're smarter than you give them credit for. Let's see what they do in the next game.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would definitely do that. Like if like I know that these people are playing for their lives and okay, cool. Well, obviously at the very end there is only going to be one.
Yeah, and the morality of
So
the situation's up for debate no matter who you're talking to. There's just no way around that.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, yeah. So go ahead. You know, if you have 500 players, 500 players makes it to the final round. It's like, well, it don't matter if they all made it to the final round. There's only going to be one winner.
Yep.
So have at it. So at that point, I wouldn't even care if they found a way to like, essentially quote unquote hack the game all the way until the very end. Is like, well, cool, you made it to the very end. There can only be one winner, and
Well, if you remember from the very first game, what they told you was the winnings will be divided amongst the remaining players at the very last game.
if that was the case, yeah.
Yeah. So you're incentivized to try to be the only winner,
Hmm.
but at the same time, like, it might have been an interesting situation to have the girl and the guy going up against the guy with the smart guy with the glasses as kind of like a last ditch, like fuck this guy, and they maybe would have given him an advantage of giving him a knife. So one of you has to try to like survive or sacrifice yourself to win. and so this guy is either going to kill one of you and essentially change it from triple winnings to or 1/3 of the winnings to 1/2 of the winnings, or you're both going to get it through and he's going to die because he failed to stop both of you from making it to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of going back, like that is such a big move. Like, how are you gonna freaking kill a girl and then, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna kill myself and let you win.
Yeah, fuck you, dude.
Dude, right? It's like that's like I would have taken the knife and like stab, stab, stab. How could you do this?
I
As I'm
mean,
crying.
he tried to. I think that's the only part of it that gets a little weird is that, I mean, aside from I don't even think the gangster knew how to fight. I think he knew enough, and because he was bigger than most of them anyway. So I'd say
Yeah, that
he'd rely on
yeah,
his size more than anything else in any of the brawler situations.
that is very true. That was one thing that I did notice. Like, it's kind of cheesy to say, and anyone can honestly say it. Um, yeah, he really didn't know how to fight. All he really did was just like, okay, cool, push this guy to the ground, and start punching him, and punching him. That was pretty much it.
Yep, yep. Look like two gorillas trying to smash each other's brains in.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Granted, one of the gorillas did have a knife, but that's beside the point.
Exactly.
But
But
yeah,
yeah.
that's the only part of that whole thing that kind of really carried a lot of weight was the fact that he was incentivized to kill for the final game because he had formed an attachment and a connection to one of them because of their behavior and their actions, and the other person, he, I like to think he wasn't like super attracted to her, even though, like, completely admitting the fact that the actress that they cast to play that character is so damn beautiful. Just
Wait, who are we talking about?
the main character and then the girl, because there's like a good
Mm.
15-year age gap between the two of them if I remember correctly.
Yes,
Even in the story.
Mm-hmm.
But that's beside the point. I feel more like he had a fatherly instinct to try to protect her
Mm-hmm.
than he was like attracted to her, because you know how it goes. Anytime any two characters show any level of chemistry with each other, you get dumbasses who are like, what if they fucked?
Yeah,
Yeah, every time.
and
It doesn't matter. Shit, people do that for Supernatural. It's like, actually, they've addressed it on the show, I think, twice already, where you had somebody who's like, why are they staying? This kid was doing a school play, and the actors playing Sam and Dean for the school play were standing really close to each other, rehearsing their lines and stuff, and like lightly touching each other's hands and everything like that. And he was like, why are they standing so close? And then she's like, it's subtext. They love each other. And he goes, they're brothers. And she's like, yeah, again, subtext. And he's just like, what the fuck?
I think
That kind of shit always bugs me. You just can't have two characters who are friends. They have to be interested in each other.
yeah, and I think it kind of falls into like the old cliche of like if you spend so much time with somebody, you end up going for it.
And maybe on a certain level that is true, but I just can't see the two of them actually
No.
like romantically engaged. I genuinely interpreted what was happening there as he viewed his former childhood friend as a threat now, who was trying to kill him and her, and he viewed her as somebody that he needed to attempt to protect.
Yep. That is very true because he kind of came down to like the one where um he knew like the smart guy, like the main character knew the smart guy, like essentially was way too smart for this. Like he was keeping information from him. He wasn't like as quote unquote helping the team like the girl was.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely had to do something to make sure that they can somehow get an advantage because he was honestly getting the advantage the whole time.
Yep. Shit, he practically tried to kill him from the very beginning.
hmm
Like he could have even even if it scared him to try to convince them that he just randomly remembered what the game that they were playing was.
hmm
It still would have went over probably a lot better uh for him trying to deal with them, to be like wait, no, I just realized what the game is. Don't pick the umbrella. They're gonna make us do the honeycomb thing. So pick everybody get it. What was the easiest one? The triangle or the square?
The triangle, square. Yeah, triangle or square.
hmm I would say either. I'd say the triangle and the square would be the easiest to. Probably triangle then square, because triangle you only have to cut out 3 sides versus the square where you have to cut out 4 straight lines. And then obviously the circle is going to be the next hardest one, and the umbrella, which I love the scaling of the difficulty of the situation here, because it's like, oh, triangle, square,
hmm
circle, fucking umbrella. Like, who the hell would pick that one?
It's like of all the shapes, like could you imagine? It's like yeah, we can make a triangle, we can make a square, we can make a star. Let's throw an umbrella in there.
And even if you
What?
wanted to make them all equally difficult, you'd do something like umbrella, um, and I can't even think of anything like fucking glasses, and a
Oh
pair of
god.
shoes. I don't know. It's just
Oh god. That would be insane.
yeah. But
It's just
imagine, like, I love the look on the guy's face when he first realizes the game that he's playing, and he's like, "Oh, I'm fucking dead."
exactly right.
Yeah.
And I I don't know, like with that game is just can you do it? If you didn't kind of figure out that method.
Yeah.
It's like, granted, yes, a lot of people did it, but obviously they had filmed it for time, um, and everything. So,
hmm
um, speaking of which, I actually have to give them so much credit. With that whole show, like the whole show, they filmed it with such little CGI. Like they built the full props, like full sets, and like that very first scene with all of the red light green light, those were all real people. So I have to give them so much credit on like how much production value that they put into this show.
Well, that fucking means something really, really important for these types of situations too, because you run into an oddity in these movies. Like sometimes it can be the point of the whole thing, and it could work out really well. Like Spy Kids 3D, as fucking bad as that movie is, and don't get me wrong, it's one of my favorite like childhood movies to watch when me and my siblings were growing up.
Yeah, same here.
Fucking rewatch that thing all the time. Also, side note, I just had the biggest fucking crush on Alexa Vega. So
You're not
damn
alone.
pretty, and now she's so damn hot. But
She's married.
that sucks. No, good for her. Good for her.
But sucks.
But yeah. Now as an adult, I look at Carla Gugino and I'm like, oh my god.
Right.
But anyway, circling back to it. Like for Spy Kids 3D, doing the entire thing on a 3D CGI stage and everything
Mhm.
like that, like that works out great, because the whole point of this is that these people are supposed to be
In a game.
in a weird situation, otherworldly. It's not supposed to fit perfectly or comfortably, but for something like Squid Games, Yeah, you blow your fucking wad on the production value of the set pieces because it means something for these people to be able to interact with a physical environment and not just have them do like some like, okay, here comes the big monster. You had careful, here comes the arm, and it's just a fucking green paint stick with a yellow ball on the end of it.
And it's funny enough that that doll is actually on display back to where it belongs.
Yeah.
They borrowed it.
Now, of course, I'm assuming they CGI'd like the whole rapid eye movement and tracking
Yeah,
system and everything like that, but
yeah,
just the thing being able to twist around and move its mouth and its arms and stuff. I'm assuming they did all that manually.
yeah. And then of course they sped it up. And but again, just so much like credit to where it's due, dude. Like they were so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make more shit like that, Hollywood. I fucking dare you.
Hollywood,
Also,
please.
on a side note, I think this might be a good wrap up topic too, because we're at the 35 hour and 35 minute mark. But
Okay, yeah.
I gotta say, the thing that really sold it for me the best was that they treated them like real people. You didn't
Hmm.
have some crazy situation where like the crazy girl jumped onto the platform with the guy and they had a fucking like kung fu fight scene and she kicked him off. No, it was just bear hug, fuck us both.
Pretty
I
much, yeah.
I appreciated that situation because we didn't you didn't play around with it. You had all these people doing something different. Like the smart guy, he's not a fighter. He's a tactician at best, and he isn't very good at being a tactician. So he's not gonna be just because he's a foot and a half taller than everybody else. That doesn't mean shit. The girl, on the other hand, she is so much smarter and more cunning than the rest of them, but she's so much smaller. So she's not
Yeah,
gonna be able to go toe to toe with anybody in like this gigantic brawl of strength. So she's
yeah.
gotta she's
Gotta
gotta do
use her
something more.
wit.
Yeah, yeah, using her wit and her skills to do these things more effectively.
Hmm. Yeah, and kind of tacking onto that, like I don't know if you saw it, but I actually watched like kind of like a behind like the scenes episodes and everything.
Yeah.
And so the main girl, the yeah, she that was I believe her first ever acting role.
Really? Yeah, you
Yeah,
never convinced me that she was that. Oh, I'm sorry.
right,
You could have very easily convinced me that she's been acting since she was a toddler.
right. And what's so crazy about it is that yeah, it was her first acting role, and yeah, she's actually a model. So
That tracks.
yeah, so it definitely is going to be different between the two. And some of the rules that they actually had, like the actors had to follow,
Mhm.
was no drinking at any time during filming. Yeah, like so you couldn't like go out to like a bar that night after the shoot and grab a beer or something.
I mean, I have
So,
I have heard of acting jobs coming with that kind of stuff. Like you have to maintain a certain workout routine. You have to maintain a certain physical image because yeah, you can't
yeah.
you have to make sure you're showing up to get your hair cut every 2 days or something like that. And yeah,
Hmm.
so I think the funniest one I've ever heard of was on the set of Sky High, uh, or as everybody jokingly likes to refer to it now, My Hero Academia US.
Hmm.
uh, it got to the point where the director and the producers implemented a rule that the cast wasn't allowed to date each other anymore because they kept hooking up with each other one week and getting into a fight and breaking up the next week, and that was affecting their ability to work with each other. So like, you guys need to stop dating each other. This is getting fucking ridiculous.
That should have just been rule number one right in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they didn't think that it was going to be necessary because they don't remember. They're Hollywood directors and screenwriters and producers, so they never had girlfriends in high school.
Mhm.
That's rude.
But
I'm sorry. I don't mean to make that joke.
no, but what was so crazy was I think it was after So it was the scene where her and the other girl, like the sacrifice girl, essentially, like.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene out of all of them.
So I guess after they had filmed that scene, the main girl, she kind of walked outside
Hmm.
and she was just crying because it was actually one of the very first scenes that they. And
Seriously? So,
yeah,
I think that okay. I think you can kind of see that shining through, because
mhm,
I swear you could see like she has this attitude throughout the entire rest, like every other scene that she's in, where she's got this look on her face where she's like, "I'm gonna fucking die."
yeah, right. And after they had filmed that scene, she walked out of off the set, just kind of like a breath, like they had a break, and she was actually crying crazy. And the crazy girl, the crazy lady, actually walked out, and the other girl, they both walked out and they saw her,
Hmm.
and they were like, "Whoa, why are you crying? What's going on?" And like it's really sweet. Like what she was saying was that I feel so bad because like essentially everyone was an actor
Yeah.
that was on that character. She was just saying like I feel like she was essentially saying that she felt so bad because she feels like her acting was not on par to theirs. And and that was the reason she was crying and like why she was so sad. And they just comforted her as like what are you talking about? Like you're doing such an amazing job and
No, she
everything.
fucking killed it.
Right? Yeah. And yeah, that was one of the behind the scenes she was talking about was people like after they had filmed that scene that she pretty much went outside and she was crying about it.
I can't even think. That's such an interesting situation. Oh my
Yeah, I
god.
mean,
I can't believe that they legitimately ended up in that position where she thought she was doing a bad job. That's almost hilarious to me.
right? But overall, would I watch it again? Yeah.
Will I watch the American sequel that's inevitably going to come out in the next 3 to 5 years? Fuck no.
Oh, the American sequel? No. The Korean sequel? Yes, by far.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I shouldn't call it a sequel. The American remake that's going to come out in the next 3 to 5 years. No, I'm not
No,
fucking watching that.
correction or double correction, American adaptation.
I'm still mad about Death Note. But anyway,
Dude, that one that director, whoever wrote that, or whoever decided to produce, needs to be blacklisted.
all of them. Yeah, oddly enough, I actually feel kind of bad for the guy that played Light in that one. What the fuck? Some Josh Wolf? No, something like that. Um, that kid apparently. Oh god, I don't remember if this is true. Somebody told me that he was actually like a pretty big fan of the manga series and the show, but the direction that he got to play the character was just so fucking shit that was the best he could do.
Dude, to be honest, like
That might be bullshit.
I don't know if it's bullshit, but like when it comes down to it, when you are giving such a really crappy and shitty director as that guy was, to one take like obviously you're gonna get the script to like
Yeah.
read it if you want to direct it, but the fact that you read it and you still decided to pursue it, knowing how bad it was, or in your mind, if for some reason like you had a freaking thought that this was actually gonna be good, you should have just quit directing. Like honestly, you're just trash. Um, but even then, even when you're like an actor, you have to kind of play off of the director because the director is essentially telling you what needs to be shot, what type of emotion, and how to play that role. Your your acting is gonna only be as good as whatever the director essentially kind of gives to you. Is just like if he's giving you the shitty scene and the shitty script, you're gonna only be able to do as good as you can. Like, and I'm not trying to be like offensive to like anyone when I say this, like to any like major actors. Like, you can be the greatest actor in the world, and when you're put into like that type of shitty situation for that type of movie, yeah, unfortunately, even your amazing is not gonna save it. Yeah, you can act amazing throughout the whole entire movie, but when every single thing about that movie is essentially wrong except for the CGI, yeah, it's not gonna work out.
Good case in point would be something along the lines of Batman Beyond. Or no, I'm sorry, Batman Forever. Terrible script, cheesy ass dialogue. Fucking that movie. I think that movie solidified the idea that nobody wanted to ever see the cartoonish, comic book accurate look for any character ever in the future. and and you could really, it's such a weird one because everybody that's in the movie and stuff, they're all fantastic actors respectively.
Mhm.
Kind of like, I guess like upper to mid tier B list for the guy that played Robin. I mean that in the kindest way possible. I just don't see him in a lot of A-list shit. I think full and well he could have been a fantastic actor. I fucking love him in The Three Musketeers and in Scent of a Woman. Fantastic performances, but that I swear I think that movie just kind of fucked his whole career. But aside from that, everybody else in it, star-studded, A-list, fucking fantastic actors. And you could tell some of them are like, I know this movie's fucking stupid, and I'm gonna give the stupidest, most over the top, like, thespian performance that I fucking can. And so you see Uma Thurman, just the most animated person on the planet. And I honestly, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger just has a fucking ball with whatever you put him in front of, no matter how ridiculous of a concept it is.
Yeah, you are definitely true. Like, and again, it kind of goes back on to the freaking director. If you're seeing somebody who's acting not to what you want, if you choose not to fix it, that is on you because
Mm-hmm.
you are the director. You're supposed to be the one who's taking the script and putting a picture to it, and you have to control and help refine that performance to what you want it to be to make it look good.
Oh God!
And if you,
Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, it's like, and if you're just letting like every single actor essentially is having a freaking heyday and like kind of spitballing everything and freestyling everything, and you're not really changing it, then the way that movie turns out is going to be on you as the director.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you could find it. I love it when if you ever get a chance, look up the like the behind the scenes meltdown for Michael Cera in Knocked Up, because he was supposed to be the original male lead before I can't remember if they fired him or if he quit before Seth Rogen took over for that one. And I honestly, as funny as it is to say, you get to see both of those things happening at the same time. You get to see a wooden fucking plank of a person who can't take direction, like Michael Cera, trying to deal with a director who's fucking incapable of giving anybody direction beyond, can you just give me more energy? Like, you're delivering the lines, but I need you to kind of give me more. And it's like, what the fuck does that mean, dude?
Yeah,
So he has a
exactly. Like
meltdown.
more what? Yeah, like more what? Like do you want more anger, more happiness, more sass, like more energy? Do you mean more fucking energy like this?
Yeah.
Or like,
You
do you
talking
mean
about volume? Are you talking about a reaction? Or what are you talking about? Or are you talking about an emotion that you want me to project? What the fuck does more energy mean?
yeah, it's just like you can't just say more energy. It's just like do exactly as you're doing. Like give me more energy, as in be a little bit more hyper, a little bit more loud and vocal. Like increase your volume or your intensity
Yeah.
with this word or however you want to say it, or enunciate or fluctuates.
Or squeeze them back into the idea. It's like, hey, keep in mind, like, try to get yourself into this stage. You've just lost the most important person in the world to you.
Mm-hmm.
So feel that, and then please react to it. And then we're gonna see what we need to do from there. Like, just give them a fucking chance to actually understand what they're trying to go through. I can't. I think the funniest one I've ever heard. There's a director who gave an actor a really famous piece of shitty advice that gets repeated every now and again, where the person's like, "I'm sorry, I just don't understand why I would do this in this situation," and he goes, "You don't have to understand it. The character understands it." It's like, that is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm supposed to be portraying the character, and I don't understand why he would do this. So, the fuck, bro.
Oh god. I think one of the I feel so bad that I don't remember who said this,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the greatest director line that I ever heard is that you don't want to direct a like you don't want to direct a sober guy, like you don't want to tell a sober guy to pretend that he's drunk. You want the sober guy to be drunk to pretend that he's trying to be sober.
No, actually, I love that. I love that because can you give me what I need you to give me when you are not feeling it? Tell me.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. They actually kind of reference that in the Prestige, where they hire the lookalike for Hugh Jackman's character, and he's fucking sloshed, rolling around and stuff. They're like, he can't do it. He's a lush. And then the guy gets up and he starts doing the whole "I'm a magician" attitude and shit. And he's just like, "Yeah, now what?" And it's like, okay, never mind. He can do it.
Oh god.
But yeah, sir, rounding it off for the summation here, I would say my biggest takeaway from Squid Games is that there really isn't a big takeaway. This is just. I usually say this to kind of make fun of a script and a storyline because it's done so fucking badly most of the time. Where if you're going into this thing, you'd be like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if... Usually that sentence is followed by something that doesn't fucking make any sense for the story or for the character. But this, I think they did it correctly. It feels like the big takeaway is that there isn't a big takeaway because they went, hey, I thought of this really fucked up situation. I wonder how that would play out. And then they wrote it out.
I mean, granted, this guy, he wrote it 10 years ago.
Oh, he's had a while to make it good then. I like it. Granted,
No.
it wouldn't be the first time that something's come out after, like for example, Independence Day sequel, where it's just like you had 20 years to make this, and this is the piece of shit you came up with.
Or, fuck, what was it? It just recently came out. It took like 10 years to make them, like, finally make the sequel. It was another one, not Independence. It was something else. I can't remember what it is, but no, yeah, like this guy, like he wrote this script, or he wrote the story essentially 10 years ago, and he pitched it to like I think like 10 different companies, and they all denied him. And then it finally got picked up recently, and it was like, holy shit! It's just like, dude, yeah, you put what I think it was like 20 million into it, and you grossed over 300 million. Like you were making a heyday.
For some reason, that sounds like it could be The Gentleman, but Guy Ritchie just kind of does that, where he works on his formula and then shits out a movie every 5 to 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not it. That's not it. Side note, shameless plug for one of my favorite movies of this new millennia here, The Gentleman. Fantastic fucking movie. But yeah.
I don't think.
Well, I think actually, harkening back to I think the reason why I liked it is that they handled very much like Squid Games. They handled themes that are usually done so fucking badly in modern day movies and media and stuff. It doesn't represent an actual like conversation you would have with a day-to-day person. They're in a boxing ring, boxing gym training place, and one guy he's given the other guy shit because he should be training like the rest of them, and he calls him God, I hope nobody gets too pissed off about this word, but he calls him a black cunt. And Colin Farrell's character is wondering, like, why the hell are you having such a problem with him saying that to you? And he goes like, that's racist. And he goes like, yeah, he didn't say all black people were cunts. He said you are black and a cunt. So the two things. And he's just like, yeah, but me being a cunt has nothing to do with me being black. And he was just like, again, not what he's saying. So, but you are black and you are a cunt. So what's the problem?
Close enough.
Yeah, it's such a fucking hard thing to try to make a joke about nowadays, and I think they do it really well. Same thing in Squid Games. You, I mean, like obviously, it's kind of a thing with cinema now. There's certain things you don't do to certain types of characters. Like you don't show a disabled person getting eaten alive. Not a good idea. You don't show a female character getting shot in the face ever. You just don't do that.
You don't show a child being killed.
Yeah, or you don't you could show the body, you could show part of the body a certain amount before the censors are like, okay, maybe you no, don't do that. But you don't do certain things. And oddly enough, that span of what you're not allowed to do has been expanded a lot. And I think I would have to say it's been expanded for the worst. But this series, Squid Games, it does a fantastic representation of what would real people do in this type of situation to the best of their ability, and I think they fucking nailed it. So I guess what was your biggest takeaway since I've been hogging the whole and wrap up?
In all honesty, it's gonna be of how relatable it is, because when you think about it, people will do just about anything, for money, especially when they're to the point of, they have nothing left, and they're in so much debt, and they're so scared, and they're so fucked up to the point of where, like, yeah, they'll do just about anything for money. But as soon as they see that, oh, are you willing to risk your life for it? They're like, no. But then, yeah, people second guessing themselves because you're like, you know what, screw it. Like that's where everyone got that second, like, to go back and play that game again.
I like it.
And that's one of the things, like, I think that's why I made it so good about the show, is that when it comes to the point of like relatability, they did it so well, because it's essentially true. Like when you are at the very bottom and you really have nowhere else to go, you're pretty much resorting to, like, yeah, I'm willing to risk my life,
Yep.
and I'm willing to sacrifice everything for money. And that just kind of shows like how messed up society is there, and like where if you literally don't have money, or you've gotten yourself into such a big hole that you're just looking for the quick and quote unquote easy way out. I mean, granted, yeah, the game's easy, but you getting all that money is easy, instead of just, why put yourself in a situation like that?
Yeah. Is the risk worth it? And I guess that they try to answer that in the show, where it's like, no. In fact, these people are all at their wits' end, and it's either this, or they're gonna die anyway. So might as well take the shot. So, man, that's always the weirdest part. And I there's a weird sense of honor that they had in that attitude, where it's like, no, if you guys choose, we'll let you go.
Yeah,
and they did, and then they all came fucking back.
Or at least majority of them. Like I think there was only like people that didn't actually come back when they were released.
Yeah, and granted, I think I honestly, like, part of my brain was like, oh, most of the people that didn't come back are dead. They immediately died. That's
Maybe.
my assumption there. They got out of it, they couldn't handle it, and they killed themselves, or they got out of it, they couldn't deal with it, they drank themselves to death, whatever the case may be. But I just assumed the majority of them died.
Right.
Even though they never explained it. That's my little headcanon. But anyway, just in time for the 2-hour mark here. That was actually, I just before this, I made a decision. This isn't going to be a continuation of the previous series of Halcyon and Bedlam. This is actually going to be the ending of Season 2, Episode 1 of Halcyon and Bedlam. So I'm going to stick with the same outro, though. I do not care if you like, share, or subscribe. Go fuck yourself.
Bye, everybody.